Alright, so in this video, I'm going to be discussing the bathroom situation on the Titanic, breaking it down first class, second class, third class. What were the bathrooms like? What was the situation? Something that's really not talked about a lot. The first thing I want to mention, I'm sure a lot of people know about this, the famous photo of the captain's private bathtub. Now you can see this did disappear and then reappear again in the wreck in 2021. This was a private bathroom for the captain, but as you'll learn, those were few and far between on the Titanic. We're going to start with first class, and you would think, people paying so much money to go on the most luxurious ship, surely they had their own private bathroom, but that was simply not the case for basically all of the standard first class cabins. They would have to go to a public washroom. They would have sinks in their room, but not toilets or baths or showers. Only a few cabins on the Titanic had private bathtubs, of course, one being the Captain Edward Smith's bathtub that is shown in photos. The private bathtubs were found in the Titanic's elaborate parlor suite accommodations. Located on the B deck, these parlor suites featured multiple bedrooms and closets with the private promenade deck. Normally, you would have a sitting room with one bedroom on each side, and then beyond that, the private promenade deck with the private bathroom behind the bedroom. And you can see all of these renderings that I'm showing. This is from the video game that's in development, Titanic Honor and Glory. That is basically the only place I've been able to find legitimate bathroom photos, especially the public bathroom photos. And you can see the interior of the parlor suite private bathrooms. If it reminds you of anything, I would say the swimming pool. Very, very bare bones, very raw. At the time in 1912, having a private bathroom in a cabin was extremely rare, so it's just like the whole idea of having a swimming pool on board. Just having it was enough. You didn't need the luxury of actually finishing it and making it all fancy. It's just the idea of having it with the toilet, with the bathtub, but most of the first class passengers did not have that luxury. First and second class passengers did have baths that they would have to book ahead of time. That's one of the main differences between the first and second and the third class. The third class, unfortunately, had 2 total baths for all the passengers. That's why when you look at the third class rooms, many of the passengers utilized the big sink in the center as a way to wash off. Now, when it comes to the toilets and the technology behind it, in the first and second class, the toilets were manual flush, which was the standard on both sea and land at the time. However, in third class, the toilets were more modern automatic flush toilets, which we know today, for fear that most immigrants would be used to outhouses and not know how to use a toilet. So pretty remarkable. The third class had a more luxurious, technological, advanced toilet because there was fears that they wouldn't know how to flush, and that's why they have a more modern one. Also, as standard at the time, some of the toilets didn't always have a sink, since every stateroom and or cabin had its own sink. In first class, it varied, with some rooms sharing a bath, washroom, and toilet with just 1 or 2 other staterooms, while other rooms having their own. So yes, that's the whole idea. The big parlor suites did have their private bathrooms, and then some of the other luxurious suites that were kind of towards the middle of the ship, they would share it with one other luxurious stateroom, to where you would have on one side, it would be the one stateroom with the sitting room, the bedroom, another bedroom, and then in the middle of that, you would have the bathroom, and then the other side, it would be the other suite. And it would be 2 different parties sharing the same bathroom, but still, that's a lot better than having to deal with public bathrooms. And you can see some of the different photos of the public bathrooms in renderings from the Titanic Honor and Glory game. Also, you can see, I'm sure everyone can recognize the third class, which, yes, at the time, that was very luxurious for third class. Titanic's third class was actually second class on most other ships in the early 1900s, and you do have the sink in the center. With only 2 baths for third class, they definitely utilized the sink as a way to kind of get in a half shower, if you will. But that is the idea of the bath situation situation. First class, believe it or not, many of the rooms did not have their own bathroom. They would have to share and go to a public bathroom. Although first and second class did have access to the baths, they would just have to schedule. And then, of course, the big time parlor suites, they would either have their own private bath or they would share it with one other luxury first class cabin. The male public restrooms did have urinals, and you can see some of the different designs. The bathrooms were pretty bare bones. It's the early 1900s. What are you gonna do? That's pretty much what you expect when it comes to an ocean liner. Because of the need to conserve limited fresh water supplies, baths were supplied with seawater. Only the attached showers of the private bathrooms located in the parlor suites utilized fresh water. So that's an interesting fact. All of the showers, I would say the most famous area where showers were located on the Titanic was along the left side of the swimming pool. Those were standalone showers, but they were very different than the ones that we're used to because they shot water out of various different points, giving you water pressure on all areas of your body. And that was located right next to the Turkish bath complex, probably the most famous bath area on Titanic. Funny enough, it really wasn't a bath. It was more kind of like what we would consider a modern day sauna slash spa. It had a main complex room, and then it had a few smaller rooms, the hot room, the temperate room, etc. Bathrooms had their own wooden seats and were filled from below rather than from a tap above to prevent steam and keep the noise down. Many of the public crew bathrooms would have experienced flooding very early on in the sinking, specifically the ones located towards the bow. They had a big complex where all the crew stayed at in various bunk beds, and they had several different public bathrooms up towards the front, along with third-class public bathrooms as well. But guys, that is just kind of the history of the bathroom situation on the Titanic. Not really many photos at all. You're able to find a few different photos of the Olympic, but when it comes to, Titanic bathrooms, are there any real photos? Unfortunately, all the photos that I found were of the Olympic. Of course, if you know the story of the Titanic and the Olympic, that really shouldn't surprise anyone. It's not like there was any crazy technology with Titanic's bathrooms. They were very similar to the Olympic. The Titanic was designed very similar. The only main differences were a few different private extra bathrooms. It is interesting that, fun fact, where Titanic, the showers utilized totally salt water, except for the private showers located in the parlor suites. There were only 2 official private bathrooms for the Titanic passengers, the ones with the private promenade decks, although there were also a few other ones for the crew, most notably Captain Smith. That's why we saw his private bathtub in the wreck photos. That was his. It was personal use. It was not open to any of the other crew members, but that was a very rare occurrence on board the Titanic. But guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description.